Lovely. Natalie and Traci, thank you so much. I thought I'd just do a quick intro to Hawkwood to let everyone know about our Conversations That Matter series. So my name is Alicia and I am the Chief Exec of Hawkwood. And our focus here is really to encourage people to develop their full potential. And as a charity, we bring people together from many different organisations and backgrounds in support of creative endeavour, a flourishing community and a sustainable environment. And that's really where our values and our ethos lie at Hawkwood. And this event tonight is a celebration of International Women's Day. And as you can see, we're welcoming two dynamic women to join us in conversation as they discuss what it takes to get your idea or project up and running. So before I hand over to Natalie and Traci, I'd just like to take a few moments to share about Hawkwood. Hawkwood is a beautiful place-based charity just outside of Stroud, and we run three main programs to our work. We have a Place to Grow, where we run around 200 educational courses a year, a Place to Create with wonderful artist residencies, and we support around 100 artists a year to come to Hawkwood and create work, and a Place for Conversation, where we have events like these or our well-renowned Seed Festival. We have so many different themes in our educational programs, but we really feel that purpose is at the heart of all of them. So we have people coming from all over the world to Hawkwood. In more usual times, we welcome people to our site, but of course in the last year we've transformed our programme into a vibrant online offering. In 2019 we worked with over 20,000 people and had 5,000 participants on site from over 28 countries. We supported 4 specific commissioned works, and we actually delivered 70 new artistic pieces of work that went on to tour nationally around the country. So we really pride ourselves in working in partnership with other organisations and welcome everyone to do so wherever you are. We love collaborating. So tonight, this event is brought to you by Gift Economy. As I'm sure you can imagine, the impact of the pandemic on an organisation who earns their money through course fees and as a venue, it's been quite difficult for our charities. So we'd be delighted if you were able to support our work this evening. And I think our team will put a way to do that into the chat. Just 2 further things which I'm really looking forward to before we get into the in-depth conversation. On March the 25th, we are having another Conversation That Matters with United Nations and TEDx speaker Jaz O'Hara. Jaz O'Hara is the founder of the Worldwide Tribe, an organisation and online community raising awareness about the refugee crisis. And on April the 29th, we're welcoming Joshua Coombs, founder of the philanthropic movement #DoSomethingForNothing. For Nothing. So those 2 are further 2 conversations that are coming up, which we hope you'll join you at. Now to hand over to our wonderful stars of the evening, Natalie and Traci. Natalie Fee is founder of the award-winning plastic campaign group City to Sea and has been a regular artist and changemaker at Hawkwood, has taken part in our climate action labs, and also spoke at Seed Festival, I think, Natalie, didn't you? So many interactions. So it's wonderful to welcome you here tonight.
Thank you.
Natalie will be in conversation with the wonderful and dynamic Traci Lewis, who is co-founder of Catalyze Change and is a sustainability business expert. So thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. And yes, I can vouch, everything she said is true. Hawkwood is amazing, and it's always such a joy to be contributing to the Hawkwood community, whether that's in person or online. So yeah, thanks for having us. So we thought initially just Traci and I would introduce ourselves. So I think there are people here that have come through knowing Hawkwood, have come through knowing me, come through knowing Traci, and some of you maybe who don't know us at all. So a warm welcome to all of you, and we'll just introduce ourselves and then we'll get cracking with our conversation. So I set up City to Sea in 2015 when I was inspired to do something about plastic pollution. So we focus on stopping plastic pollution at source through a number of different campaigns. And over the years, we've run such campaigns as Refill and have built that up into a national and now international campaign, Rethink Periods and Plastic Free Periods. And we've also done a number of sort of supermarket-led petitions and things that have actually had a tangible difference at sort of supermarket level as well. Also engage in varying amounts of lobbying with our government, who, as ever, are very slow to introduce the measures that we know are very much needed. Prior to working at City to Sea, so just to say, City to Sea is now a team of around 20 people, and we're in our fifth year this year as a CIC, so as a community interest company. And so I'll be excited to talk to you about those different things relating to City to Sea later. I'm also an author. I wrote a book called How to Save the World for Free, which was published in at the end of 2019. And I actually did write a book in 2012, as well, was published in 2012 as well, called The Everyday Alchemist's Happiness Handbook. So I have more of a sort of a well-being background, and I'm now currently writing my third book, which is called Do Good, Get Paid. So I'm immersing myself in the moment around what I think might be useful, because I get asked a lot, well, how did you set up City to Sea? How did you get funding? Could you give me some advice? And I was getting kind of sad and frustrated that I couldn't answer all those conversations and emails, really. So Do Good, Get Paid will be hopefully my kind of catch-all response to those kind of questions. Thanks, Pri. Just put the links in the chat there. So yeah, prior to City to Sea, I worked in media. So I worked in television, and before that I ran my own life coaching business, and more sort of sacred sites and tours and things like that when I was raising my son when he was younger. So a bit of a coyote trail of a career path that's led me to being an environmental campaigner, and looking forward to answering your questions later. Handing over to Traci. Oh, she's muted.
My telephone started going off, so I had to mute myself. So yeah, hi everybody, I'm Traci Lewis, and very happy International Women's Day to you all. Thanks so much for inviting me along this evening. Really delighted to be here. I'm at my home in Montpellier, Bristol, where I live with my teenage daughter, Kira. And through my work, I work to inspire, empower, and skill girls and young women to be sustainability leaders and change makers. And I do that through the social enterprise, which I'm co-founder and director of, Catalyse Change CIC, which I set up here in Bristol with 3 other women back in 2015. We're still relatively small, not to the scale of City to Sea yet, but we've been running learning and mentoring programs for the last 5 years, pivoted it all online last year. Now work with nearly 1,000 young women, and we have over 50 voluntary mentors and a really great expert advisory board. So a really great network of women. And a lot of that comes from, I also lead the Women in Sustainability Hub, or WINS Hub, here in Bristol. So we're a network for women creating positive change for a sustainable future. And we run network meetings and also do a quarterly freelancer and entrepreneur meeting. So do come along to one of those if that's of interest. And just briefly, a long story short about how I got here. My story journey in sustainability started when I was 19. It was an extended gap year that went for 5.5 years out in Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. So I really experienced the diversity and beauty of that side of the world. I did a lot of work in hospitality, working in great areas, beautiful areas in the Great Barrier Reef and other islands up off Queensland coast. So it was all very fabulous in that respect. I did a lot of work in commercial farming, which wasn't quite so fabulous. And I witnessed firsthand a lot of the devastation caused by plastic pollution, deforestation, runoff from industrial agriculture, which really shocked me. But I came across a really fabulous sustainability movement in Australia, which taught me such a lot. I did a permaculture design course with the wonderful Bill Mollison, which really opened my eyes. And I began to see that organic and sustainable food and farming could really be the solution to some of the world's most pressing social and environmental problems. So that was a real epiphany for me and gave me my purpose for the next 20 years. I discovered Bristol on my journey back, which was fabulous because I didn't know whether I'd be able to settle back in the UK. And that got me working at the Soil Association. So I was there for 18 years, had a successful career with them, working here in Bristol, and then also managing their Organic Southwest office. So I did a lot of work then supporting businesses and social enterprises to develop. But that's enough for now, because I'll talk about how I got to the job I'm doing now and setting up social enterprise through our conversation. Do we want to have a little bit more look in the chat, see any more updates from there before we dive in?
I think we're good. There haven't been any questions so far, just more people expressing their excitement to be here. I love it that you did permaculture course with the Bill Mollison.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I just didn't realize. I just sort of was backpacking and ended up there from seeing some poster in the Rusty's Bazaar Market, and just ended up with this amazing group of people, and yeah, it really sort of changed my life. And also I've remembered I was at Hawkwood, so I was a manager within the Soil Association program around setting up community supported agriculture and food co-ops. So the kickoff meeting was actually at Hawkwood, so I have been there in person. See your CSA and learn all about it there.
So nice. I did my permaculture design course about 20 years ago in Findhorn when I was well, if it was 20 years ago, I was 22. And so, yeah, it's interesting. It's lovely to hear that. I didn't know that. I'm going to be learning things about Traci too tonight, although we've known each other probably for the past 7 years or something.
Yeah, I've been very inspired by your social enterprise. It's been sort of blazing the trail for us at Catalyse Change. So you've been a real inspiration to me. So I know, why don't you, let me start off with the first question. So what inspired you to start your own business?
Well, I think it was kind of twofold. So I was working in TV at the time, and I'm just going to ask: is it possible to keep me and Traci both on the screen at the same time, to whoever's doing the magical tech stuff? That would be really cool if I can also see Traci, because I don't just want to talk to myself. I want to talk to Traci.
I think it can be a bit tricky because I'm sharing it on Facebook, and it doesn't automatically change between both of you. So I kind of had to swap over. That's why you're seeing all of the changing.
Okay, no problems.
But I can try, and if it changes, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you. So I was working in telly at the time, and I was getting frustrated at the lack of coverage of the environmental emergency, and I kept trying to kind of cram more content, sort of eco community-based content into the show, and they were there was a lot of pushback. And back in 2014 2015, eco environmental programs on telly was still seen as worthy and not interesting and not relevant. Can you believe it? So there was partly that frustration, and then my discovery of the plastic pollution problem. So I was really galvanized and really motivated to do something about plastic. And then I was also then coming up against this sort of barrier at work. And I just thought, you know what, I'm sure I could do a better job of getting my own content out there and maybe make a difference through doing my own videos and films about issues like plastic pollution, and randomly started with a crowdfunder to do a music video about plastic pollution. So it wasn't a conventional start. I didn't think, right, I'm going to set up a business. Here's my business plan. Here's what I'm going to do. I actually just started thinking, well, what can I bring to it? What can I give to plastic pollution? And I decided initially to give a music video with me singing along. And so that was kind of how it began. But I did a crowdfunder. So that was kind of how I managed to fund that. But I still had a full-time job at the time. So, I mean, we can dive more into how we transitioned, or how I transitioned from, a full-time job to then starting my own thing, because I think for a lot of people that's the hard thing, is like how do you transition. But yeah, that was the inspiration really behind why I decided to to do something. And I guess after the music video came out, and I raised a grand total of £17 for Surfers Against Sewage. I raised £5,000 on the crowdfunder, but then I spent all that creating the film. And afterwards I was sort of scratching my head and thinking, would I have been better off raising £5,000 for a campaign or for a charity? So that was sort of my initial foray. And then at the end of that, I was like, well, I think I can do more than just a crowdfunder, a video about a music video about plastic pollution. So what about you? What was your what made you, when you left the Soil Association, did you have something built up already, or did you just launch into starting a new thing?
Well, yeah, I've been thinking about it for a few years, but I was a single parent and I was living down in Devon, working for the Soil Association at that point. And I didn't have a very big support network around me. I didn't have any money around me, but I was just starting to think I really want to work for myself. I was already working like a freelancer. So I'd started understanding, I was doing my own fundraising. I'd got my own structures, but you still got the cushion and the security of that monthly paycheck. And you've got also a sort of a team there at headquarters to check in with. But just going back a little bit further, when I was thinking about it today, I thought my inspiration was Anita Roddick, the brilliant founder of The Body Shop, because during the 80s, I'd never heard of anything like social enterprise and the campaigning that she used to do for, bringing in terms of the food producers and products with purpose. I mean, that just really blew me away. And that was what made me start to think that I wanted to set up a business like that. And also because my dad had always wanted to set up his own business and he never did. And he worked his whole life in a factory, and most of my sort of friends and family weren't business owners. So it wasn't something I was used to. And my education didn't talk to me about setting up my own business. It's like you go to university and probably become a teacher or something like that. And so I was always in my head that he missed the opportunity to run his own business. My mum was always like, oh, he'd be really good at it. And so I just thought I never want to regret anything. So I was coming to about the age of 40 and I was like, well, I think it's sort of now or never. So I started putting the structures in place, doing a business course, setting up social media profiles. I already knew how to, raise money through fundraising. So yeah, it was sort of planting the seeds, getting the structures in place until I was ready to jump.
Yeah. And so, and when you were ready to jump, because I think that's a really important story to tell. So what did you have in place? Like, did you have some savings, or did you have a supportive partner, or had you already built up a client base in your spare time?
No, it was a bit mad really, because I did have a few months redundancy money, because I did get made redundant in the end, and which I'd been planning it, but it's always a bit of a shock, isn't it? It's not 100% your decisions. It's like, okay, well, I've got about 4 months redundancy money, but I'm a single parent. I'm the only one responsible for paying the bills here. So I could have dived in, and because I'd only just moved back to Bristol, because I'd been in Cornwall and Devon for 10 years, it was a bit silly because I didn't have all of the clients already set up. And also I moved out of food, which was my background. So that was kind of a bit silly. But I'd had an epiphany down in Devon, that basically I wanted to empower and support girls and young women. So I knew I had a new purpose, but for the time being, I needed to start freelancing and consulting in the third sector. So yeah, it wasn't that good a plan. How about you?
I mean, I'd say that was brave, not silly, but it's a risk, isn't it? And I guess we do take a risk, I think, and unless we do have some financial security that we can lean into. For me, well, I also got made redundant from Made in Bristol, and I had maybe from my redundancy, I maybe had like 2 or 3 months living costs. So it was really not a lot. Didn't have any savings, but I had been building City to Sea up, especially the refill campaign, in my spare time. And we'd got a grant from Bristol Green Capital of £11,000. And that was the first grant that we had. And I'd two friends, my partner at the time and a friend were kind of delivering the consultancy element of that. And then I was able to do just 1 day a week. So I was paid, when I came out of my TV work, I then was paid 1 day a week. I supplemented it with other things. So I had a bit of a portfolio career. So would write an article here and there, maybe do some freelance presenting work. So I was scraping by, but I was actually on housing benefit, or I could go on to housing benefit because I was a single mum. And I don't think I'm really happy to to say that and talk about that, because I think we have to use the resources that are available to us at the time. And for me to know that at least my rent was covered was a huge gift, and certainly enabled me to go through those first few months. And then very slowly, so in the first year was sort of paid 2 days a week, and then the second year or third year 3 days a week. So it was a very slow progression, but we did manage to pay ourselves eventually.
And what were the sort of top 3 challenges you faced when you were starting out?
Well, when we started out, I think it was getting people to, well, it's generally always comes back to funding, because I think if you've got funding in place, you can then access the staff, the tools, the resources that you need. But I think some barriers to getting funding in the early days were a kind of confidence in us. Like, we didn't have a track record as a campaigning organization. So to get people to give us money, even sort of grants and foundations or high net worth individuals or corporates, that they were taking a risk really going with us. And it wasn't until we won the Switch the Stick campaign in 2016 that was really a real game-changing moment for us, because up until then I remember going to the water companies because I could see that an ideal funder for a campaign about cotton bud sticks leaking through sewage systems should be funded by the water industry, because they're leaking through their systems, and it's also costing the water industry lots of money. So it was economically a good thing for them to invest in the campaign, because it could actually save them money in the long term. Anyway, they didn't have a clue who I was. And although I was only asking for £45,000 to run the Switch the Stick campaign, that to them was still a risk, even though it could potentially save them 100 million. So only 3 water companies said yes. So we had a budget of 15k and we ran the campaign on a shoestring. Thankfully, we were successful. But then after that, I went back to them with the fact that we'd kind of proved ourselves. So I was then able to secure a grant of £65,000 from the water industry for plastic-free periods and wet wipes. So it's I think that early stage in terms of getting the confidence, getting people to buy into your mission when you don't have a track record. Did you find a similar thing for you? Was it when you were getting going, what were the challenges that you came up against?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it was like you, it was having the time and the capacity, because I was doing my freelance and consulting work and I had to earn enough money through that to actually sort of pay the bills and then start to develop catalyze change around that. And then I was being paid 1 or 2 days a week on certain projects or events, but it was always that juggling act when you've got other projects coming in. I think also when we launched our first program, it was actually finding our ideal customers. So we had this fabulous big vision about inspiring and empowering girls and young women. But how you actually then translate that into a business and then really get the messaging right to recruit people and engage them. And we did a crowdfunder actually to get it off the ground, which enabled us to get around £6,000. And then I had to deliver this first Catalyst bootcamp in 6 weeks, and I didn't have a mailing list, and I didn't have the track record. So it's quite a baptism of fire. But when you've gone out to all of your friends and family and all of your ex-colleagues say, I'm going to do this and give me money, then it's a good motivator.
Yeah.
And I discovered Seth Godin, who I really rate, who really helped me with thinking about marketing differently. And I did an online course with him. And I think also it's the challenge is mindset, isn't it? It's believing in yourself and committing to it. And I've done quite a lot of work around money mindset and, those fears around feeling like, I've got to have a steady job. And I think, you've really got to be able to sort of trust the process and do what you can. But I think you've got to put the intent first, haven't you? And then the resources do follow, but that can that can take some nerve, and sometimes, you know, getting people to go with you on that process can also be hard.
Yeah. And what do you like, either drawing from that or where you are now, sort of 5 years on, what do you wish you'd known at the beginning?
Well, not to worry about what people think of me.
Isn't that a big one?
Yeah, it is. I think, yeah, you're just so much worried, don't you, about what other people think, what they're judging you, you know, who am I to be going out
So
and
I'm just going to jump in on that. Like, is that a female thing, like, or a feminine thing? And I think, you know, I'm curious as to that, because my impression is that it's more acute in feminine leadership, or maybe in women in business, that we might question ourselves more and worry more about what other people think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, yeah, which I think that's why it's so important, isn't it, to have a really supportive network around you. So that would be perhaps something I wish I'd known before I started out, that, you know, the network, which I haven't actually developed through Catalyze Change and Women in Sustainability, is totally key. And also getting good support. So I really wish that I'd had a coach, a business coach from the start. I did have one for a short time, and then it's like, oh, I can't afford it. So, you know, I stopped for about a year and went back and then stopped again. But I think that's, you know, investing in yourself and having those people who can coach and mentor you. I think those are really important things, because they just really allow you to, you know, move forward a lot more quickly. And I suppose also just just getting a good business model from the outset. I think we were so in our vision of what we were doing and delivering things that I think we should have honed it down more quickly in terms of the products, and develop confidence about, you know, how we monetize it, and, you know, being a bit more creative about that, because you know, I'm coming up with lots of ideas now, and I just sort of wish that I'd known some of those earlier.
Yeah.
How about you? What things do you wish you'd known before you started out?
Yeah, similar. I mean, similar to you in that sort of caring. I feel like I held back quite a lot at times, of worrying how we might come across. Like, I remember we launched our plastic free periods video, and it was the first sort of the thumbnail, like the first video, the bit you see when you looked at the video, was a woman in her pants. It was actually me pulling plastic out of her knickers to highlight, you know, the amount of hidden plastic in our period products. And we had a sort of a feminist on Twitter, like really slam me for it. And I remember feeling sort of overly sensitive to it. It was sort of like, oh, you're sexualizing periods. And it was actually just sort of, for me, it came from fun. It was cheeky and playful. And, you know, and actually in hindsight, I think I would have been like, I'm quite happy to look sexy on my period. Like, I don't, you know, and sort of own that more. But I felt, I think I've had to do, work on kind of, just caring less, I guess, sort of becoming more resilient, having less self-doubt. I think, you know, City to Sea as a whole, I wish I'd taken, I wish I'd started my own diversity journey a lot sooner. So I think I was sort of probably, as many white women who have a spiritual discipline, I think I was like, oh, we're all one, I'm not racist. But actually I was, you know, and, you know, unconscious bias, and I really needed to do the work myself. And I think I thought when we started City to Sea and we started hiring, we just wrote on the application, we really welcome applications from people from minority ethnic backgrounds. We were quite clear that that's kind of what we were looking for, but it wasn't enough. It was nowhere near enough. And then, you know, suddenly it was hiring friends and family, and not really family, but a boyfriend. And then, you know, getting to sort of 4 years on, and then looking around and being like, oh God, we're all white and mostly women. And so, yeah, I wish I'd understood more about it sooner, and really sort of done the work and actively sought and created networks, and even introduced sort of quotas. So it's hard to undo it, especially if you're then hit financially and you can't keep recruiting. So, you know, we've managed to do more in terms of addressing sort of the intersectionality of environmentalism, being more representative in our content, diversifying our board, sort of areas that we can do that, not through recruitment, other ways that we can do that. But yeah, I think that's sort of probably my biggest regret from building a team from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were just talking about funding. Do you want to talk a bit more about that? How you've managed to get that? Have there been sort of any challenges or learning you could share around it?
I think, and I'm also seeing some really good questions coming through on the chat. So maybe we do just a couple more questions each, and then we'll be nice to sort of go through some of the questions, because I think loads of good stuff in there. So yeah, I think funding, what we decided to do, and I say decided, but actually I was advised, so I didn't just magically know this. I had I'd interviewed for a fundraising person. I think you might have even applied for that.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Didn't get it. No, I don't think we ended up hiring anyone from that actually in the end. I think we ended up doing some consultancy or something, but that's funny. You were brilliant in your interview. And somebody said that we needed to have a diverse income stream, so that we were more resilient if one of those things fell away. So I think at the time they said have like four strands, so that if one of them falls away, you've still got sort of 3 legs to stand on. So we developed through City to Sea fundraising through grants and foundations. That also included like individual donors. So people that were maybe just giving £5 a month, or people that were giving, £5,000 once in a blue moon. Product partners, so companies like Chili's bottles, who we work with, and they give us a percentage, or they give us £10 every time they sell a Chili's refill bottle or cup. So product partnerships and corporate partnerships. So that was like our relationship with the water industry, and since with other corporates. And then through Refill, we've sometimes managed to work with local government. So for example, Refill is funded by Welsh Government in Wales, and sometimes sort of locally. So we had those 4 strands. Last year, 2 of those kind of got knocked out by COVID. So we're kind of teetering dangerously on the edge, as I think a lot of organisations are at the moment. But I think having that diversifying across the income stream. But in terms of also talking about what we would have done differently, I think I would have built in a sustainable business model. So actually something that we knew what was going to be coming in, so we could then plan and hope and be more resilient. So have you found a similar thing in your funding? I mean, I think a bit different because we've been sort of fundraising as a CIC for our campaigns, but how have you found it getting funding?
Yeah, so our learning and mentoring program has been a mix of grant funding, corporate sponsorship and ticket sales. So we only have about 30% of the places are bursaries for young women from low income and disadvantaged backgrounds. So we do have some income from ticket sales, but it is subsidised by the corporate sponsorship and grant funding. And since COVID hit, I mean, a lot of organisations have actually got a lot more grant funding, but it has been a very specific type of organisation and community. So we've had no grant funding since COVID. And what we're doing at the moment, so we're just about to launch a new membership or subscription model, and also developing our courses as digital courses. So that's going to be part of the membership offer, but also something that we could sell separately. So yeah, I'm quite excited about that. And again, yeah, it's really important that we can get a sustainable income, reoccurring income coming in for us to go forward with any confidence, and also to scale our impact. So yeah, watch this space really.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think we're looking at currently at developing a fund through City to Sea, and so sort of supporting others at the early stages where we were in the beginning. But one of the funders that we were talking to about that, they said, well, do you actually want to set up, get lots of people to then be reliant on grants? They said actually it would be better from their side if you were actually we were helping people develop something that was sustainable. So I think that is a really good thing to bear in mind from the beginning. Can you create a business model that continues to generate something that's of value to someone in the world? But there are times when you just need to get some dosh to run a quick campaign, and you don't necessarily need to make a career out of it. You just want some money to make it happen.
I mean, that's what I love about the social enterprise business model and the structure with that. You know, I think for me, setting up as a CIC was enabling us to have that mix, that it is okay, you know, you can get some grants in to run the pilot programs to get off the ground, even though we're aiming for over 50% of it being traded income through products and services. But yeah, I mean, I did also set up a limited company. So I do my consultancy and freelancing through a limited company, and actually having a CIC is brilliant because it's just got so much more energy about it, because you can bring in people as advisors and volunteers, and people can get involved in so many different ways because they know there's an asset lock, there's a really strong vision and mission there. So yeah, because we were going to talk about legal structures when we just dived into that. But yeah, I think that whole model, it just has so much more energy, and I like the fact that there's that diversity and people can get involved and, you know, offer their skills and time and expertise in ways that suit them when they get behind that mission.
Yeah, we went down the CIC structure as well, and at the beginning I really ummed and ahed and got some advice from Quartet Vosca. I think I got some advice from Vosca in Bristol that help charities. And someone really helpfully sat me down and took me through my options of a charity, a CIO, a CIC, or a limited company. And I think there's a community benefit society or something now as well. And then I had some free advice from a local Bristol lawyer who helped organizations for free. And I think when you start sort of asking around in your networks, you can find these people. And we landed on a CIC as well, because I wanted the sort of agility and flexibility of a company. I kind of didn't want to run all my decisions past sort of 6 trustees at the time. I just kind of wanted to get on with it. And that's worked, but it definitely has been a blocker as well. So for us, we're actually looking now at setting up a charity as well. So we may have a kick and a charity, or we may have some aspects that we have in a limited company and a charity, because the charities unlock those a lot more grants and foundations, and they unlock the philanthropic donations as well from high net worth individuals. So generally, I think it depends on what you want to do, but there are definitely benefits to both.
Yeah.
And so shall we go? There's so many good questions.
Oh, are there? Okay. Yeah, let's take some of those then.
There's an incredible amount. The first I'd like to bring forward is Morella. Morella, I've just unmuted you. Would you like to ask your last question?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm subconscious that I'm a dressing gown, so I'm going to switch off my video very soon. So it's firstly, thanks so much for the conversation. It's very helpful. And Traci, I was curious to know what the qualities are in the people, in different girls and women you've been working with in supporting throughout your work, in terms of, you know, those who do get to take an idea off the ground and those who don't. No judgment here, but I was just curious to see if you noticed anything in particular.
Well, we're very fortunate that we work with the most amazing young women, and I think you know, young women all women who have got the urge to do something around sustainability, for social justice and environmental protection, are normally pretty awesome. And so we get these incredible young women, and normally they're self-selecting, and the ones who do normally go through the full program have sort of found us, and main recruitment is now on Instagram. So in a way, the fact that they're self-selecting and they come to us because they're interested in sustainability issues and green careers and role models, they're normally very motivated. We often find that sometimes there can be a real lacking, anxiety and lack of confidence, because we started working with the Fridays for the Future, the young people who are getting in and doing the climate strikes, which was a great place to meet young people who are motivated. But I think perhaps maybe our program is sort of helping those that aren't necessarily quite so confident. And when we've gone into schools and done workshops, I think it hasn't worked quite so well, because I think sometimes there's peer pressure and judgment when you're doing a workshop in a school class. So we find it a lot better to be recruiting in spaces where they already are expressing an interest. And that's why we're going to be setting up the membership hub, because they really want that safe space, which they get during our learning and mentoring programs, but it's at the moment it's relatively short time. So they really want to be able to connect with other like-minded young women, and that also bring in that support from mentors and businesses working in the sustainability space.
Thank you so much, Tracy, and thank you, Mirella, for jumping on and asking your question. And we also have Cara, and other people have upvoted her question. Cara, are you with us?
Hi, Tracy. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A bit of a lag. But yeah, I was just curious how important you think social media presence is for startups. Personally, I find it quite exhausting to try to bring up, to try to create presence in social media, especially like just what you said, Tracy, recruiting young people and getting them interested. You need that presence, but personally, I find it really difficult to keep up with.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing tool, isn't it? It's this free, amazing tool. It's incredibly democratic in many ways, but I think you've got to be very focused on it. So, really focus in on the platform that your target market are actually going to be using. So, the place where they're at, where they're already hanging out, and just get very focused on what you do and how you develop that. But I think it's essential, and especially with young people, that you've got to have a social media presence. I mean, if you're working in a very specific place, location, but obviously now with COVID, that makes it ever more difficult. But I think it's about having the clarity of your message, being consistent online, having a strong presence, but trying to be smart about it. But yeah, I think it would be very difficult to develop a startup without a good social media presence, really. What do you think, Nat?
I'm leaning towards agreeing with you, but I think it depends on what the startup is, and if it is reliant on online sort of business, and depending, I mean, generally business partnerships, most of the time people are reaching out via LinkedIn. Generally, if you're looking for funding, they're going to be checking out your online presence to see sort of how you're communicating. But I think it is on a case-by-case basis, and I think there's definitely space for if what you're creating is about getting people offline and out into nature, then you can very much build your marketing strategy around that. It doesn't have to be online, but I think not spreading yourself too thin across all the different platforms that there are is good advice.
Thank you both. We've got quite a few more questions coming into the chat, so I'm going to read one out to you if you don't mind. This one. Okay, this was a comment that was put into the chat box, and I figured it would be a really good one to bring forward. And it was the biggest challenges in business? Question, self-doubt. And I wanted to ask both of you to talk a little bit about what you recommend in terms of overcoming self-doubt when setting up your own business.
You go first, Nat.
Sure. Well, I think I generally sort of see it as each time that I'm challenged, or if I feel self-doubt come along, then I will generally try and do something to overcome it, and see that as a way of strengthening myself. So I think I see those challenges as opportunities to be more of who I am. I think as well, just practice as well. So even if it's things like giving talks, asking for money, you know, actually practicing it. And I'm really having good mentors around you. I think I'm going to just sort of cheekily link this into another question, which I think might have accidentally come through to me directly, but it said, I mentioned the sum £45,000. How did I decide this amount and have the confidence to ask and expect it? Well, I guess I costed out the campaign, but I did that with the help of someone who'd run campaigns before. So I had a bit of understanding why it was going to cost that much. And we did a budget. So that was kind of clear. I did feel really nervous about asking for it. Going into the room, I had complete imposter syndrome, but I guess what I would say to myself before going into those situations or before going on stage or doing a talk, I would say to myself, this isn't about Natalie. I'm not here for Natalie. I'm here for the albatross. I'm here for the oceans. Like, get out of the way and just show up and be of service. And that really helped. It just depersonalized it. And all I had to do was do my best. But then one day when the water industry got back to me and said, this was different, this was later on for refill, and we'd been doing refill slowly across different sort of water companies. They came to me one day and said, right, okay, what would it look like if the water companies, all of them got together and we just sponsored refill? How much would that be? You know, blank sheet of paper, tell us how much that would cost. And so I went away, I costed it up. We'd been running it for about 2 years, so I thought I had a pretty good idea. I costed it up to be about 100k a year for 3 years. And I was going to send it off. And then I just thought, no, I'll just run this by someone who's like scaled things before. And I was sharing an office at the time with the guys that were running the Wave, the inland surf lake, and their CEO, Craig, would occasionally just, you know, give me a bit of advice. And so I asked him to look at it. And he said, no, this is crazy. You're completely underselling yourself. You've been operating on a shoestring. You don't need to keep operating on a shoestring. What would it look like if you were doing it properly? Like, how many people do you really need? And then we costed it up as £1 million for 3 years. So not 300, but £1 million. And I just couldn't, I was like, I can't ask for £1 million. I can't do that. And he was like, you have to, you just ask. You've got nothing to lose. If you start at 300, you've got nowhere to go. If you start at £1 million, then you've got some leeway. So I went in and I asked for £1 million, and they said no, but I ended up getting £600,000 for 2 years instead of £300,000 for 3 years. So all from a 15-minute running the budget by Craig and someone with a much higher glass ceiling than me smashed mine and said, see it from this perspective. So I think the value of having some good mentors around that can just help you see things helps you overcome self-doubt.
Oh, I love that. Who can I ask for £1 million? So yeah, I love the fact you're talking about aligning it to your purpose. I think that's really important. It's like getting over yourself, isn't it? It's thinking actually this whole vision of sustainability and empowering young women is like such a big vision. It's so powerful, and it's actually not worrying about what people think of you or whether you'll get it right or whatever, all the things that run through our head. It's about just remembering your bigger purpose and trying to get over yourself. And I think, yeah, I mean, I suppose seeing the problems is part of a learning process. That's very important, an entrepreneurial approach to things. And for me, I have daily practices which are really important to me to help keep me on track. So I do the miracle morning, the Elrod routine. So they're all practices which, you know, you might do at any time, but it's about doing it as a daily practice and first thing in the morning. So visualization, meditation, affirmations, and just doing that every day. You know, it's like a regular physical exercise, or keeping you in check and keeping you focused. Because, and I just think also having outlets, you know, that you do make sure that you switch off and that you've got something, whether it's a walk or run and not a bottle of wine, just something that helps you to relax at the end of the day and, you know, get things out of your head, because otherwise, you know, you can just start to get too once you start doubting and losing your confidence, then it all starts falling apart, really. So you have to work on these things, I think, quite consciously.
Thank you, Traci. Thank you, Natalie. I'm so touched by both of those sharing. It's like just how I've said it into the chat, but how both practical and heart-centered you both are in your responses. It's so nice. And we've had another question from Claire. What are some of the ideas for taking the next steps in business to be more sustainable and go that little bit further? Claire shares that she sometimes feels that she hits the ceiling and she's not going anywhere fast. So I guess this would be on how to be productive in sustainable business, if to kind of phrase it more precisely.
So in terms of making the business itself more sustainable, or making our working practices more effective and sustainable from that point of view. I mean, in terms of the business sustainability, I mean, we, embed sustainability into everything we do, and the fact that that's what we're teaching the young women around sustainability and how to be change makers. And obviously we try and embed sustainability into all of the choices within the business. Not so many these days with everything being online, but in terms of purchasing and travel, etc. Is that what you mean, or have I interpreted that wrongly?
I'm just helping Claire. I think it's next steps. So I'm going to read it again. What are some of the ideas for taking the next steps in business to be more sustainable?
Yeah, so I think maybe sort of like, how do you get your business to go even more green?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once you've done the initial things.
Yeah. We've got a nod and a thumbs up. Yeah.
So I mean, I'd say I think it kind of, again, depends what your business is. So I think if you really feel like you've done everything you can to affect the sustainability of your business, you can then start looking out and how can you change the sustainability, sort of, the values, ethos, whatever, of your customers, or even your clients, your stakeholders. So kind of greening the supply chain is sort of how you can go that step further. Joining things like sort of networks where you're kind of showing best practice to other businesses and influencing other businesses that might not have taken the steps that you have. And if it's more about you losing momentum with your own, I'd say just, one step at a time, maybe just set yourself some goals for the business for that year, and don't try and do them all at once. I was interested to answer Alicia's question around, do you ever get stuck in seeing what the next steps are in your own business? And if so, how do you overcome the inertia or challenges? I like that question. And again, I'm probably going to bring it either back to, my team. So I might sort of bounce things around with my team. I think is always quite a battle between all really busy and all too busy to innovate, and generally I think most sort of successful businesses put money into research and innovation, and generally we haven't really done that at City to See. We've just been like, right, this campaign, and we need funding for this campaign, so it hasn't left much space for sort of for innovation. But for me, it was actually because of furlough last year that I was able to take a bit of a step back. All the team took sort of furlough at different times last year, and it was after I'd relaxed, I'd taken a bit of a step back up my meditation practice, and it was in the meditation that I then started to sort of receive new, innovative, creative ideas, like for the next book or for the next for the fund for City to See. And I think it's hard to create that space for yourself when you're, especially when you're leading the organization. But yeah, I guess going forwards, we maybe just need to sort of factor in ways to do that without furlough, and doing it through creating that space as much as we can.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And that, I suppose, for me, having that morning practice around meditation and reflection and journaling in the morning is really important to provide that space without the busyness of social media and before everything kicks off. And I find I get really good ideas. And yeah, we've been having some sort of quite intense discussions deciding where to go next, and it wasn't really very smooth sailing, to say the least, over sort of the winter period. And I think taking that time sort of reflect has been really valuable, but also I think as much as possible involving your stakeholders, your customers, so the young women, and how as much as possible is trying to, even just on a daily basis on Instagram stories, trying to get them involved and ask their ideas, because that's what we're doing it for, and they're the ones who know what they need. So I think that's really important, to always be having that as an ongoing conversation, however you can facilitate it.
Natalie and Traci, this conversation has been absolutely fabulous and completely inspiring. I know that we've got a million other questions in the chat, so it's very difficult, but I'm conscious we're at time. And what I'd love to suggest is, for those questions we haven't got to, that we might share those with you after this event tonight, see if you could share any more thoughts that we can get back to people on. So a huge thank you. What I'm reflecting on is your resilience, your inspiration, and your bravery, because we all need to have a little bit of bravery when we go out there and set up our business. And you two have been really inspirational tonight to share your thoughts and your challenges and your ways through things. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to Natalie Fee and Traci Lewis. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for having us. It's been a real pleasure. And Traci, I've really enjoyed doing this with you. So thanks for bringing your energy to it too. And thank you to everybody that's shown up. I'm just going to put my links. There's loads, depending on what social media channel you like to focus on, then here's a load that I try and stay across. Probably not very well, because I'm spreading myself too thin. But yeah, thanks to the Hawkwood team for all your fantastic hosting and sharing of links and questions. And yeah, any questions, people can give us a shout. They can get in touch with us. Traci's got an amazing she's got a free PDF. If you join her mailing list, you get a free 50 tips to starting up your own business, which is really cool.
Oh,
so
thanks, Nat.
I don't need to write a book about it, do I? I could probably just share your PDF.
Yeah, no, I'd love you to, if you wanted to download that ebook, and then I do a weekly newsletter, but you don't have to subscribe to that if you don't want to, but hopefully you'll find that interesting. I'll share a couple of links, and I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. That's where I mainly do for business. And if you're interested in Catalyze Change, we're on Instagram at Catalyze Change, and also the Women in Sustainability Bristol Hub. I'd love you to come along to one of my events if you don't already. It'd be great to see you there. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Really enjoyed being here. It's been an honour. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much, Traci. And I'm sure that we'll be inviting you back soon, because it was completely inspirational. Thank you.
Let's come and do a residential weekend when we're allowed to come back.
Ah, yes.
Oh, I'd love to come up there.
A course on setting up your sustainable business. That's what we'll be doing.
That would be great.
First, as soon as we open.